And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news and share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you happen to be listening anywhere else and you wanted to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University, at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And you can find me on Rumble at Coffee Talk 2, the number 2, that is. And again, if you are on Rumble watching the live portion, I cannot see your comments. I can only see comments coming in from YouTube on the live portion because that's how Rumble is. Not Rumble, Restream. Rumble, Restream, it's all the same. And as always, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable, and I'll say hello to some of the people that are chiming in. I see Helter has joined us here today, as well as Jimmy, Dragon, New York Patriot, Brian, Country Living, who says thumbs up. Please do if you don't mind, people. Jeff is here. Excuse me. Coffee Girl. Bob is here. And Kimberly joining us so far. And hello to everyone else who is watching that didn't want to chime in, and that's okay. You don't have to. I'm not going to force you to. I can see you anyways. I can see you. Somebody's paranoid now. As we get ready to jump off and we take a look at what is going on in the world today, the realm of the ridiculous. And it's incredible. It's incredible watching as Trump steamrolls his way through the presidency. Absolutely incredible how quickly many of these foreign nations are knuckling under in negotiation. Because I mean, the funny thing is, a lot of, taking a look at the last 4 years, anybody, watching, who's paying attention to the last 4 years during the previous executive administration, i.e., the Biden administration, where it was a wishy-washy presidency that no one took seriously, and how the rest of the world seemed to ignore us, walk all over us, just, and he continued to give concessions and continued to give money and continued to apologize, and the United States was viewed as being very weak, very weak. And now it doesn't look that way anymore. We were perceived as very weak during the Biden administration, during the Obama administration. Not so much during the Bush administration. They were still kind of nervous about Bush, even though he was sort of wishy-washy. Legends is here. Puck wants to know if anyone bought a excavator from Timu. I don't know they sold anything like that. Monkey is here. And Sven says dad's home and pissed the kids left the tools in the yard and broken half the stuff in the house. Now the baby Democrats and rhinos scream because they're going to be spanked. Yes, they're being sent home. They're being put in timeout. And Legends wants to know about tariffs. If Honda and Toyota go up in price if they have factories already in the U.S. No, because that's why they manufacture in this country, so that they don't have to worry about importing. It's safer anyways. It's safer to do it right here. So that wouldn't affect them. They buy the materials here and manufacture it here. They're not bringing it into the country. It's already on American soil. So yeah, they're safe from that, or they should be. But now we'll jump to Canada. And Una says that I'm having trouble with the audio. Yeah, I think that's a restream issue, and it gets buggy from time to time. Gets buggy from time to time. As we get ready to open the first article now, we saw that Mexico folded very quickly. Mexico negotiated and folded before the tariffs even went in place. Before they even went in place. Now, so is Canada. That quick. After all that bravada, after all that chest pounding and thumping and carrying on. Daily Mail article: Canada folds to Trump's demands and strikes a $3 billion border deal. That quick. Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, didn't he quit? Why is he still there? Announced Monday that he had agreed to a string of Donald Trump's border demands and won a 30-day reprieve from a raft of heavy tariffs in exchange. He announced he was appointing a fentanyl czar and security officers that would keep a 24/7 watch on the border. I just had a good call with President Trump, he said. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. Coming after Trump this weekend announced he was preparing to slap 25% tariffs on imports from north of the border, Canada said it was preparing for tat tariffs on American goods, but all that abated after the two leaders spoke by the phone. They had a 30-minute conversation before to go in place. And that's what happened. Fuck says that he's having issues with the audio as well. I'm not sure what the problem is or which microphone it is. But that's unfortunate. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that issue. But I will be, when the contract runs up here in a couple of weeks, it should be, I'll be switching back to the StreamYard. Country wants to know why they didn't do this border stuff during the last administration. Because Biden was the president, and Biden is weak, and they knew it. So why cooperate with him? Who cares what Biden thinks? He's going to knuckle under and say and do whatever you want him to do anyways. But you see how it worked. Everybody's like, what the hell tariffs going to do? Well, take a look. Take a look at what happened. That was quick. It didn't take long at all for these people to go to pieces. They fell apart. They gave up. President of Mexico, the president of Canada now, who both said that Trump was cordial, friendly, good conversation. They're working it out. Nothing negative to say. And Bob is here. Glad you could make it. Puck says Democrats are more worried about U.S. aid than tariffs. Well, there's a lot of potential money laundering and manipulation going on in that entire department, which is why Musk suggested that it needs to be completely eradicated. Completely eradicated. But again, Biden was viewed as being weak. And indeed he was. Look at that. It makes a huge difference. When you've got 28% possibly of your gross national product flowing out of Canada, or 35, was it 35? Something like 35% flowing out of Canada into the United States. But then only like 1.2% coming in from the United States. It makes a huge difference. You're going to put counter tariffs against the United States, and who cares? Don't buy anything from us. What difference does it make? Sven says Biden's been sitting in his pee pants all day and got hopped up on Mountain Dew. He's actually signed a negotiation, that is, Biden has signed with an agent so that he can do public appearances. He did that this morning. All people said New Jersey governor is not trying to claim his migrant living above my garage comment, or is, oh, I see. claiming it was a joke after he was criticized for exploiting migrants for political clout. So he's walking that back now. That's funny. Kimberly says, I tried to explain to my husband why Trump was coming down hard on tariffs, leverage, and negotiations. Exactly. Leverage and negotiation. And while we're on the subject, guess who else is knuckling under? Guess who else can't take it? Guess who else can't take it? Daily Caller article coming up here. China's folding already. It's only been 2 days since Trump's China tariffs dropped, and Beijing wants to make a deal. That didn't take long at all. The Chinese government is reportedly preparing to begin trade talks with the U.S. after President Trump slapped China with a 10% tariff, according to the Wall Street Journal. He didn't even give them a heavy one. 10%, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. But they can't take it. And China's, I think they're kind of teetering almost on bankruptcy. There's a lot of money that goes into China, but it's a huge bubble, especially with real estate. They built entire cities and nobody's living in them, funded by the Chinese government. There's a huge crisis going on in China. Huge crisis going on in China. It says Beijing is reportedly gearing up to discuss trade relations in an attempt to ward off further tariffs from the U.S., according to Wall Street Journal. The reports come in after Trump announced Saturday he was implementing 10% against China as well as 25% against Mexico and Canada in an attempt to crack down on illegal immigration and the trafficking of illicit drugs such as fentanyl stemming from other countries. China's initial trade proposal will be aimed at restoring a trade agreement that the country signed during Trump's previous term, but did not implement under President Biden. So Trump had it all set up and Biden shut it off. Brilliant. Beijing is now preparing to discuss with the Trump-Vance administration areas where China can purchase more from the U.S., the outlet reports. When announcing the tariffs on Saturday, the White House wrote that there was an extraordinary threat posed by illegal aliens and drugs, including deadly fentanyl, which constitutes a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The White House stated in the announcement tariffs are a powerful, proven source of leverage for protecting national interest. Evidently it is. Evidently it is. China is already backing off. Already backing off that fast. Bob says it's the Chinese year of the snake. Is it? And Monkey said China's estate is a rabbit hole itself. But yeah, they're on a huge, people have been waiting for it. Economists have been watching China for at least a decade because, again, they built entire cities. They thought they were going to be the factory mecca of the entire world and that they were going to get all those people out of the country and into the cities and working in factories, and they didn't come. You've got cities that were built by China that are designed to house 2 million plus people that have less than 10,000 citizens living in them. They're falling apart from disrepair. That's a huge waste. A huge waste. So it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And you could be looking at bankruptcy from China. Monkey says basically some couple that buys a condo in China ends up buying the condo and it's being incomplete, essentially getting scammed. Imagine buying a home you saw in the ad, assuming it's done, and for it to really show it's not ever done. And Puck said Trump is multitasking. He is. Well, I mean, he's got a lot to make up for. Joe says Trump needs to send in troops to California. I think the Army Corps of Engineers is already up there, actually. Already up there. Who else is knuckling under to Trump? How about Denmark? And everybody thought he was crazy for this one. And this is where you get the thumbnail from. Okay. And this is from the Mirror. Anytime, Restream. Denmark is now open to the U.S. expanding its military in Greenland after Trump makes threats. Well, she says he threatened to invade. I don't know if that's serious or not. That's the that's the Prime Minister of Denmark on the right, who has control over Greenland. Trump called her bluff and she backed down. Denmark says it now supports the U.S. is increasing its military footprint in Greenland following Trump's threat to invade the country. I don't know if he really meant that. I haven't heard him say it, but that doesn't mean that he didn't, just because I didn't hear it. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen claimed the move was about securing the country, which the new president has said he wants to acquire either with cash or by force. Her comments follow a horrendous phone call with Trump where he reportedly threatened Denmark with targeted tariffs. If it, there it is again, wave that tariff flag and everybody knuckles under. If it refused to give up ownership of the island nation. Frederiksen said today, according to Bloomberg, quote, I totally agree with the Americans that the high north and that the Arctic region is becoming more and more important when we are talking about defense and security and deterrence, and it is possible to find a way to ensure stronger footprints in Greenland. So if this is about securing our part of the world, we can find a way to work forward. Okay, so we went from Trump being horrendous to, oh, the Americans are right and we can figure it out. Gotcha. Frederiksen also told reporters the island would remain part of Denmark and was not for sale. Okay, because it's not outside the realm of possibility that it could be purchased. Joe says everyone click the like button. Please do, folks, if you don't mind. And if you see an ad, let it run. If it's not too much, because I know sometimes the ads are insanely long, but it does help. It does help. Thank you, Joe. Another one bites the dust. So that's Canada. Oh, excuse me. No, Mexico was first. Mexico was the first one to knuckle under. So Mexico, then Canada in the same day, both of which spoke very highly of Trump after the phone call. China now wants to come to the table. It's like, oh no, wait, let's talk. Let's talk. And now Denmark is going to let the U.S. military expand in Greenland. Just like that. Just like that. And Joe says the leftists of Europe always complain about colonialism, but Denmark is actively colonizing Greenland. So Trump said, let's let the people of Greenland decide to troll the left. Brian thinks she looks masculine. I don't know. There's a lot of neck roll going on there. At least she's not buried in makeup. Her makeup is moderate. I'll give her that much. But yeah, that's another one bites the dust. Trump batting 1,000. I don't think he's dropped the ball anywhere yet. Hopefully he can keep it up because he's got to be getting tired. He's got to be getting tired. But we're not done yet. Oh no, we're not done yet. We are not done yet. We're going to jump all the way to Venezuela. Is it Venezuela or El Salvador? Excuse me. We're going to jump to El Salvador. El Salvador. And see what they have to say about what Trump's been doing. GB News article, El Salvador offers to accept criminals from any country that Trump plans to deport. We'll take anybody. Hey, buddy. Hey, Trump, my friend. Hey, amigo. We take all your criminals, eh? Come on now, send them to El Salvador. I wonder what kind of that. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced an unprecedented migration agreement with El Salvador, which will see the Central American nation accept deportees of any nationality from the United States. We'll take anyone. Send them all down here. The deal includes provisions for El Salvador to take in American criminals currently serving sentences in U.S. prisons. So we can even get rid of Americans we don't like. Perfect. He's agreed to the most unprecedented, extraordinary migratory agreement anywhere in the world, according to Rubio. The groundbreaking arrangement would allow the U.S. to deport non-Salvadorian migrants and convicted criminals to El Salvador, making a significant shift in regional migration policy. President Bukele confirmed the broad agreement, stating that it does not have precedent in the history of the relationship, not just of the United States with El Salvador, but rather, I think, in Latin America. He would be right. Rubio's visit to El Salvador forms part of his five-nation Central American tour, which includes stops in Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and the Dominican Republic. Wow. The Secretary of State arrived in San Salvador after observing a U.S.-funded deportation flight from Panama to Colombia. Migration remains the primary focus of Rubio's diplomatic mission, reflecting the Trump administration's priorities in the region. Wasted no time. He's already down in South and Central America negotiating this. That is crazy. Carrick has joined us. Glad you could make it. All People says Kane West's newest wife always looks shell-shocked and terrified. Does she? I don't know. I haven't really paid attention. And Joe says Nayib Bukele, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is awesome and has improved El Salvador greatly by imprisoning MS-13. And you see how they're managed. I mean, look at this. How the hell do you escape from that? Seriously, that is nuts. AJ says, knowing El Salvador, the prison will be staffed by Sombra Negra. Yeah, I don't think they're getting out of there anytime soon. Sven says we pay 10 times when they pay what they pay per bad guy. If we just paid half, we win. Yeah, I'm sure they made some kind of negotiation by which El Salvador figured that they would financially benefit from it, and it's still cheaper than whatever it would cost here. So win-win. Hey, El Salvador, take them. Puck says the El Salvador Presidente is a cool dude. He's pretty popular. I believe he was USA on USAID's hit list. That could be. That could be. But yeah, another one chalked up. Another one. We ought to start calling him the Gipper. Who remembers which president was the Gipper? Let's see. Let's see who's paying attention. Which U.S. president was the Gipper? No cheating by going on Google. You're all going to cheat. I already know. But in the meantime, Venezuelans are crying about it. Venezuelans in the U.S. are crying about it. They feel betrayed. NBC News article. Venezuelans in the U.S. call Trump's move to end deportation protections a betrayal. The Trump administration's latest immigration shakeup has sent tremors through the Venezuelan community as some face a possible return to a country whose regime has been dubbed illegal by the United States. The Trump administration revoked temporary protected status for almost 350,000 Venezuelans who are in the U.S. Also, the protection will end in 60 days instead of October. Those affected will no longer have temporary protection from deportation or work permits. Venezuelan activist Beatriz Olivaria said that for some, returning would be almost suicidal. Amid brutal crackdowns on protests against the government and struggles for basic goods such as food and medicine, some of those people that are here, they have spoken about the situation in Venezuela on cameras, and everywhere they set foot in Venezuela, they will be jailed. So they consider that to be a betrayal. A betrayal of what, though? To end deportation protections are a betrayal. But those were promises that were made to you by the Biden administration against the will of the American people, who gave out work permit passes to, I believe, what, 1.3 or 1.5 million Venezuelans and brought them all up here while we were already being flooded? Because it was several packages of those temporary work permits that were handed out. I remember reading the article some months ago, like in the beginning of last year. And it's not what the American people needed or wanted. And that was a deal with the Biden administration. So who's being betrayed? And several of you figured it out, of course. Ace and Sven and Dragon, Carrick. It was Ronald Reagan, correct. Ronald Reagan. Joe says Venezuelans killed a lot of Americans. Yes. It's a huge problem. Culture clashes as well as criminal element. It's a huge problem. And they're complaining about it. And I believe Venezuela has agreed to take back whoever Trump sends. Whoever Trump sends. And if it's going to come down to revolution in Venezuela, that's on them. And might need to happen. Might need to happen. But they feel betrayed. Perhaps. If they're here legitimately, I can understand that. But how do you tell? How do you sort that out? The vetting process that should have taken place when they first arrived never happened. Because they could have been split up then. They could have been divided at that time. It never happened. Never happened. This I thought was funny. I want to share this one because Canada trying to show up Trump and Elon Musk. We already talked about it yesterday, how they're taking or ordered to remove American liquor from the shelves. And indeed, there are people that are dumping that liquor out now in protest because they're silly. You'll get a kick out of this. I thought this was so funny. Business Insider magazine. Ontario will be ripping up its $68 million Starlink contract with SpaceX, according to Doug Ford. And that's Doug Ford with his big goofy smile. Duh, I'm Doug Ford. Ernest Borgnine's son, Doug Ford, says Ontario won't do business with people hell-bent on destroying our economy, Ford said on X. Canada didn't start the fight with the U.S., but you'd better believe we're ready to win it. In November, Ontario awarded a contract worth $68 million to SpaceX, helmed by Musk, to provide internet access to 15,000 unserved and underserved homes and businesses across Ontario by June of this year. Ford also said Monday Ontario would be banning American companies from provisional contracts, adding that the Ontario government spent $30 billion on procurement each year and argued the U.S.-based businesses will now lose out tens of billions of dollars in new revenue. Okay, so JD says his brother was a crack addict. Whose brother? Ernest Borgnine or Doug Ford? Anyways, so to snub Musk because you're upset about the tariffs, which by the way worked. I don't know if Trudeau gave him the memo that he's already backed off. You are inconveniencing your own citizens, your own constituents, 15,000 of which have no, apparently, internet access. Okay? You're going to inconvenience your own people to snub Elon Musk by losing a $68 million contract. And that's supposed to really hurt Musk's feelings. The guy who spent $44 extra billion that he had lying around to buy Twitter because he felt like it. That's like having your manager tell you you're not invited to the office pizza party. Please, please, can I? Oh, oh, don't do it. I'm sorry. I'm having a flashback of George Costanza on the episode of Seinfeld, where he was really infatuated with Elaine's boyfriend, the mountain climber. Thought the guy was really cool, but he got hurt by accident, and he told George to step off, and he goes, "Oh, please, please don't." Oh my God. And JD confirms it's Ford, where he was talking about. JJ says this begs the question if Canadian leadership is taking legal advice from Terrence and Philip. Indeed, indeed, because that contract was for the benefit of his constituents. There are people out there who cannot get internet access. That's what the whole StarsLink contract was about, to help them. Now you're going to screw over the citizens in Ontario so you can thumb your nose at Musk over something he doesn't give a shit about. $68 million, big deal. I mean, it's a lot of money. Give me $68 million. I'd be happy. I could definitely use $68 million. Anybody out there is, hey, Elon, are you listening? I'll take $68 million all day. But when you're talking about somebody who's shifting around billions all the time, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. That was just something to help those people. And now Ford has just screwed them over. Sven says Toronto needs to be removed from the hockey lineup. They have a bunch of losers. I helped hum the Canadian anthem when the song wouldn't play in Saginaw. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, there you go. Puck said it. Step off, George. Oh, please. Please don't. I wish I had that queued up on a recording. JD says while Rob Ford was the mayor of Toronto, he got caught smoking crack in office. Oh no! It looks like he's still it looks like his brother here, Doug, still has some residual narcotics of some sort in his system. That's a really, I mean, again, to snub. I'm gonna show Trump and Musk, you just watch. I'm going to cancel the contract that was going to help all of you. Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant freaking strategy. Brilliant strategy. Unbelievable. Guys, you're in Canada. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you. You've had, just like we had our bout with weak leadership under the Obama administration and under the Biden administration, the Biden administration, as it were. You've been under weak leadership for what, a hair over a decade now? It's killing you up there. I know it. I feel bad. Cruising says, let's face it, most cities would probably run better if the local government was too busy smoking crack to get busy at screwing things up. True. True. God, that is so stupid. Speaking of stupid, because we've got plenty of stupid still going on in America as well. And by the way, how is the audio? Has it cleared up, or is it still causing a problem? I can try to get, I mean, this is microphone number 5 here, and I'm still having issues. Newsweek article. Here's somebody I'm sure you're all sick and tired of by now. I thought he went away. They brought him back. Somebody went and dug this kid back up. That's David Hogg with 2 G's, like Boss Hogg, only not nearly as interesting. Without even getting into the article, every image I've ever seen of this kid, that's how he looks. He looks like a miserable son of a bitch. He looks absolutely freaking miserable. What a piece of shit. He looks so unhappy, and he's such a narcissist. He's not the only semblance of joy I bet he gets out of life is making sure everyone else is miserable. And Patriot Nace says that I'm coming in clear. Okay, because it started off a little wonky, apparently. Brian says, not David Hogg. Yes, I'm sorry, David Hogg. Not J.D. Hogg. Jefferson Davis, that is. Jefferson Davis Hogg. A direct descendant of the original Jefferson Davis. Because the town of Hazard, story-wise, was a battleground town from the Civil War, which is why there is a Union Jack on the roof of the General Lee for the historical value of the town. In case anybody ever wanted to make the argument about whether or not it's racist, because I've had people say that it's an inherently racist show. No, it really isn't. If you watch the show, it's goofy, but not like that. New York Patriot says David Hogg is going to be sticking around like herpes. Yeah, they gave him a job. Oh, it makes me sick. Newsweek, new DNC vice chair called to abolish ICE. Yeah, you keep screaming. Newly elected Democratic National Committee Vice Chair David Hogg once called for immigration and customs enforcement to be abolished. Abolish ICE, Hogg said in a post on X in July 2020. Newsweek has contacted the DNC for further comment, but, they haven't heard anything, naturally. I'm just fascinated that he's managed to stick around. Hogg has also called for defunding the police and for the end of a terrorist organization. Look at him. Here's another picture of him. And wasn't he debunked? Didn't it turn out he wasn't even there at the school? Am I wrong? Somebody can tell me in the comments. Someone can tell me in the comments. Wasn't it found out that he wasn't even there? Every time I've seen this kid, he's outraged and cussing and screaming and just, God, was he not breastfed maybe? What happened? Coffee Girl says I sound clear. Thank you. Because apparently it started off a little rough, but I guess Restream cleared it up. And again, I'll be moving back to here shortly in the next couple of weeks to StreamYard. And hopefully I won't have any more issues like that, because every once in a while it's bad. Patriot says, yes, he wasn't there. He supposedly he was outside. JD says his dad was an FBI agent. Yeah, I'm sure he's a plant. I bet you he's like Ralph Macchio, and he's actually like 46 years old, and he's pretending to be a kid. Some kind of deep state thing for the Democrat Party. Look at this guy. You could totally, hey, they saluted with the fist too. You could totally Photoshop this so that his shirt's brown and put an armband on him and everything. That'd be cool. Little youth movement kind of deal there. Puck says Hogg was raised on soy milk. I think he drank pure estrogen. Kimberly says he looks like the preacher werewolf in the movie Silver Bullet. Unbelievable. I was glad to never see him again. But he's resurfaced now. They gave him a job. They gave him a title. Oh, nothing is more dangerous than a little man with a title. And I'm not just talking about stature. He looks small. Okay? I'm not just talking about his stature, but there's nothing worse than a little man with a big title. Wow. Cruising says, speaking as a Floridian teacher, he wasn't there that day. He went to the school after. He's been trying to violate everyone's rights from the next day. He's done nothing but exploit the dead. Agreed. And Sven says that is the youth salute with the fist. Interesting. No one ever called him out on that. New York Patriot says Democrats bleed blue. David Hogg bleeds soy. And the whole joke, for those of you who don't know about the soy and the soy milk and soybeans, is because soy naturally contains a lot of estrogen. It naturally contains estrogen, which is why you shouldn't give it to young people. You shouldn't let young people eat or drink soy. Incredible. Cruising says Hogg never actually went away. He's been consistent in state politics down here, faking, grandstanding, and doing evil. Oh, figures. It hurts my feelings. Hurts my feelings. There are people like that in the world. Most people are bad enough. Most people are bad enough. We don't need guys like this stirring things up. And while we're on the subject, we're not on the subject, but I'm going there anyways. Of eggs. Yeah, egg prices are up. You know, Waffle House is charging an extra 50 cents an egg now. CBS News, as bird flu ravages poultry industry, the damage spreads. You want to know why? We've talked about this a lot. And I did a short on it. People gave me shit because I said the egg shortage is because they killed millions of chickens last year. It's the truth. People got mad. Article starts off, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says there are 7 generations of Corwins in the Albuquerque, Long Island town cemetery. Their graves overlook the farm that's been in the family since 1640s. Some family members' tombstones are adorned with ducks. I'm going to say it was my grandfather's idea because he did it first. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, they're talking about culling chickens destroyed. I'm going to open this image from that farm. Okay. That right there, that image is why they keep getting the flu and why they're sickly. Not that I think they need to be terminated, destroyed for having the bird flu. They never used to. I've talked about it before. I don't recall ever, except for within the last decade, hearing about mass cullings of bird populations. All right. It's only within the last 10 years. I recall ever seeing that. Look at this image. Look at the haze floating over the chickens. You can't even see the back of the room because of the cloud of dust. How healthy do you think those birds are? What do you expect? You know they have a nesting instinct. You could open those doors and they'll all run out in the morning. And when the sun goes down, they'll come right back on their own. They don't have to live like this. This needs to change. I hate seeing them like this. I hate seeing them penned up like this. There must be 1 million chickens in that barn. Or I forget what it's a coop. I forget what the industrial coop is called. That's disgusting. Have you seen images of workers who have to go in here wearing respirators? Because they can't breathe, but it's okay for the chickens to breathe this and get sick, and then you eat it. You ever heard the adage, you are what you eat? This is appalling. These are appalling conditions. Sven suggests that I'm spot on with the chickens. You don't have to treat them like this. Kimberly says the commercial chicken egg industry is horrendous. Indeed. Indeed. Cruising says part of the issue is antibiotic and antiviral resistances being on the rise in pathogens due to the selective force of mass use and misuse of antivirals and antibiotics. Yeah. Nature Nerd says unsanitary and disgusting. How can you cram chickens that close together? Maybe the government needs to make farming regulations. There's too many regulations. That's the problem. It's probably because of government and FDA regulations that they're living like this. And I remember from a documentary, and I've quoted it before, or paraphrased it because I don't remember the exact wording. There was a guy in the documentary who had a free range farm of organic chickens. He said that the FDA is down there harassing him weekly, taking blood samples from his chickens, and that his ratio was something like 500 parts per million, but that the industry standard is something like 50,000 parts per million, and that the chickens at the industrial farms up the road are higher than that, but the FDA hadn't been there in years. So what are they picking on me for, was his question. Legitimate question. There's something wrong with that entire industry. Doge needs to pull that apart too. Brian said humans are disgusting. Yes, they are. Watch Hoarders and you'll see. Watch Hoarders and you will see. It's incredible. JJ says, having kept small flocks myself, I really don't like the way commercial farms raise livestock. Yeah, that too. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible the way they treat these animals. I mean, you're going to kill them and eat them, at least treat them halfway decent. And if you're into the whole philosophy of karma or Hinduism, or at least the concept of, because I'm not a practitioner of any of that kind of faith, but they believe that if the animal that you ate suffered, you're creating a toxic environment in your body by absorbing their pain. It's an interesting way to look at it. It's an interesting way to look at it. Here's a non-story. Non-story. Puck says it seems like the regulations are regulating the wrong things. Yes. And Kimberly treats their chickens like any pet. Yeah, food, water, land to roam. Yeah, you take good care of them and they'll take care of you. Take care of them and they will take care of you. Oh, I hear the door. As we get ready to open up the next story here. Again, a non-story. Non-story. LA Times. Arizona governor appoints the first Latina and Black justice to state Supreme Court. Why? Because history. Oh, look, we're making history. And again, if it's history or not, is there any historic value there? Does it really matter? Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs appointed Maria Elena Cruz to the Arizona Supreme Court Wednesday, making the state appellate judge from rural Yuma County the first Latina and Black person chosen for the state's high court. So she's Hispanic and Black. That's convenient. And a female. Hey, triple threat. Hobbs' selection of Cruz marks the first Supreme Court appointment by a Democratic governor since 2005. It also broadens the racial, geographic, and political diversity of the seven-member Republican-dominant court. And there's your DEI in action. And Mitham wants to know about permaculture. Permaculture is a form of gardening, correct? A form of gardening. Trying to create a micro ecosystem. Is that the idea? Where everything feeds off of themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. Although I still think you should do crop rotation because it will absorb different plants absorb different types of nutrients. Sven says adrenal fatigue in the chicken messes with protein. And Puck says making history by overturning any future challenges to election fraud cases. Oh no, is that what it is? Is that what that is? It says, I prioritize an appointee who is not only eminently qualified, is she, but also someone who reflects our state, does she, and who is committed to making our legal system work for everyday people. Does it? I beg to differ. Good Lord. Of course, I was focused on credentials and experience, but also on appointing a justice who will uplift those who need it most. I don't know if any of that's true. Kimberly says, I'm more impressed by track records, not skin color exactly. I prefer the concept of a meritocracy, not hiring people because they're of their gender, color, nationality. But I mean, she checks at least 3 boxes. She claims to be Latino, Black, and obviously is female. So yeah, let me check all those boxes. Oh, and she's a Democrat. Puck wants to know, are they biologists? Yeah, how did they know she's a woman? I know. That was funny when that justice said that. My question to her would be, if you don't know what a woman is, where did your children come from? Because I believe she has 3 children. That particular justice that was on the Supreme Court. Oh, I can't think of her name off the top of my head now. Cruising says, amazing how all these people who say they want the elected bodies to reflect the electorate while trying to make them non-white seems to ignore 50% plus of most areas are Caucasian. That is true. That is correct. That is correct. And that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And again, I'm just sick and tired of these people pretending to make history. As I've pointed out many times, just because something is, quote, history doesn't mean it's historic. It doesn't mean it means anything. All People says, meanwhile, what are Cruz's GPA and bar exam scores? Has anyone ever noticed the DEI types are always appointed rather than selected based on meritorious competition? Yeah. And that's something that Trump's administration is trying to move away from completely. New York Patriot says, I use the Matt Walsh standard. What is a woman? An adult human female. Here's the question, and I joked about it before, but basically I would ask him, how did you get here today? How did you get here today for this hearing? I drove. Are you sure? Are you a mechanic? I mean, seriously. More health news. Not really. I wanted to share this because you know I love taking apart these companies. I just saw this commercial the other night. This commercial is for a new drug called Voquenza. It was just approved by the FDA, and I mean like days ago. Just approved. Voquenza, right?
This is Steve. Steve takes Voquenza. This is Steve's stomach, where Voquenza can kick some acid, heal acid-related erosive esophagitis, and relieve related heartburn. Voquenza is the...
Okay. So, as you gather, that is basically a heartburn medication. It alleviates heartburn associated with a particular stomach issue. Okay. Instead of changing your diet, which is usually what's recommended or should be recommended by a doctor, find out what it is that triggers your heartburn. Take that out of your diet. Oh no, we're Americans. We can't do that. Can't do that. So they got this industrial pharmaceutical pill, Voquezna. All right. Instead of changing your diet or having a glass of milk, because if you have whole milk, the protein and the fat in that milk will very often calm down that stomach acid. I don't know if you were aware of that. I don't know if you were aware of that or not. Kimberly says, have you seen the videos of male trans still have Franken beans getting upset that gynecologists will not see them? I have heard of that. Now, I've shown you just a snippet of the Voquezna commercial, and I was curious. You know I'm always curious, right? So I wanted to go to the website and see what the side effects are. So what price do I have to pay to deal with my heartburn pill? I don't want heartburn, but I don't want to change my diet. And I don't know, maybe I'm lactose intolerant and I can't drink milk. What are the side effects? So-called side effects, because as we are aware, a side effect is a really, really nice way of saying you've been poisoned. Okay. JJ says, given the use of the color blue, I thought it was a new medication for the treatment of blue balls. No. And Puck suggests aloe vera juice for upset stomachs. Let's go to drugs.com. Voquezna side effects. Burning feeling in the chest or stomach, indigestion, stomach upset. I'm sorry, isn't that indigestion? Isn't that heartburn? Burning feeling in the chest or stomach, indigestion, stomach upset. Isn't that what Voquezna is supposed to stop? Tenderness in the stomach. Again, isn't that what this drug is supposed to stop? Most common side effects: burning feeling in the chest or stomach, indigestion, stomach upset, and tenderness in the stomach. Other side effects. Get ready for it. It's a long list. Anxiety, lower back pain, tarry stool, loss of interest in pleasure. Wow! Loss of taste or smell, bladder pain, bloody, cloudy urine, loss of voice, nausea or vomiting, blurry vision, muscle pain, nervousness, chest pain, swelling in the arms or legs, flu-like symptoms, difficult urination, cough, diarrhea, burning urination, pounding in the ears, slow or fast heartbeat, sneezing, sore throat, discouragement, dizziness, eye pain, fainting, sores and ulcers, stuffy runny nose, fever and chills, frequent urge to urinate, swollen glands, thick white vaginal discharge, bloated feeling, headache, trouble breathing, trouble concentrating, trouble sleeping, bleeding and bruising, tiredness and weakness, unusual weight gain, lack of appetite, joint pain, itching, vagina or genitals, irritability. I'd be irritable too. Difficulty swallowing. I'm not done. Dizziness or lightheadedness, excessive air or gas, fainting, feeling of constant movement, that would be vertigo, flushed dry skin, fruity smelling breath, increased thirst, loss of strength, loss of consciousness, sweating, tingling in hands or feet. Oh my God. Oh, it gets worse and worse as you go. There's more. There's actually more. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Puck says, and still got approved. Yeah, just passed the FDA a few days ago. But again, as was pointed out, the FDA doesn't test any of these things anymore. Thanks to President Bush, the pharmaceutical companies can draw their own conclusions and then submit their paperwork to the FDA for approval. The FDA doesn't have to check any of this. Patriot says, I'd rather just deal with the heartburn. Yes. Yeah. And Brian says, which side effect is the tip of the iceberg? I just think it's hilarious. I just think it's hilarious that the main side effect is what the drug's supposed to prevent in the first place. All that's totally worth it. And they didn't say it. I didn't see it on the list. I might have missed it. But in the commercial, I'm pretty sure they said brittle bones. Brittle bones. Just going to drop dead. A lack of interest in pleasure. What does that mean? I'm scared. Anyways, with that, we are at the top of the hour, so I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com. And you can find me on Rumble, Coffee Talk 2, and that's the number 2. So thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will see you again tomorrow.